The richest person in your neighborhood probably drives a used car. Lives in a house that's paid off but not impressive. And you've never once thought of them as wealthy. Because everything you've been taught about what wealth looks like is wrong. Hi, I'm Hana. This is Mind Bloom. In the 1990s, researchers Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent 30 years studying actual millionaires in America. Not celebrities, not tech founders, ordinary people with extraordinary net worths. What they found completely contradicted everything the culture says about wealth. Today, we're going into what they discovered and what it means for how you're thinking about money right now. Finding 1. Most millionaires look nothing like millionaires. Stanley and Danko found that the majority of people with a net worth over $1 million in America lived in ordinary neighborhoods, drove ordinary or used cars, and wore ordinary clothes. They were teachers, accountants, small business owners, farmers, plumbers. They were not the people you'd identify as wealthy walking down the street. Meanwhile, the people who looked wealthy, the luxury cars, the designer clothes, the visible consumption, were, statistically, far less likely to actually have significant wealth. Stanley coined a term for the people who spend heavily to signal wealth they don't have. He called them UAWs, under-accumulators of wealth. And the core finding was this: in America, there is an inverse relationship between looking wealthy and being wealthy. The more someone spends on displaying affluence, the less likely they are to actually have it. Finding 2. Wealthy people are wealthy because of what they don't spend, not what they earn. Stanley's research showed that income alone was a poor predictor of net worth. Many high earners, doctors, lawyers, executives had surprisingly low net worth relative to their income, because they spent almost all of it. Meanwhile, many modest earners had built substantial wealth over time, because they spent significantly less than they earned, consistently, for decades. The formula was almost painfully simple: wealth equals what you keep, not what you make. And the people who understood this lived it, not through extreme sacrifice, but through a consistent, quiet refusal to let their spending expand to meet their income. Finding 3. The wealthy are obsessed with financial independence, not financial performance. When Stanley asked wealthy people what financial success meant to them, the answer was almost never a number. It wasn't a specific income or a target net worth. It was a feeling, a condition. Not having to work unless I want to, not being dependent on anyone else, being able to say no. Financial independence, the ability to make choices about your life without being constrained by money, was the goal. Not the appearance of success, not the admiration of others, not the car or the house or the vacation. The freedom. This reframing changes everything about financial decision-making, because every spending decision becomes a question of, does this move me toward more freedom or less? Finding 4. They married the right person and talked about money. One of Stanley's most consistent findings was that stable, aligned marriages were strongly correlated with wealth accumulation, not because wealthy people were luckier in love, but because financial independence is nearly impossible to build if two people in a household have fundamentally different relationships with money. The wealthy couples in his research talked about money. They agreed on financial priorities. They made financial decisions together deliberately. They didn't avoid the topic. They made it a normal, ongoing part of how they ran their lives. This is uncomfortable data in a culture that treats money conversations as awkward or unromantic. But the research is unambiguous. Financial alignment in a partnership is one of the strongest predictors of long-term wealth. Finding 5. Their children often struggled more than they did because of what they gave them. Stanley called this economic outpatient care, the ongoing financial support that wealthy parents provide to adult children. And the data showed something counterintuitive. The more financial support adult children received, the lower their own wealth accumulation tended to be. Not because the money was harmful in itself, but because financial support reduced the necessity that drives financial independence. The children who received less support, who had to figure it out themselves, tended to develop the same habits and orientations that built their parents' wealth. The ones who received more tended to develop consumption habits instead. This isn't an argument against helping your children, it's an argument for the kind of help that builds capacity rather than dependence. So, what does any of this mean for you? The most important thing Stanley's research revealed is that wealth is a practice, not an event. It is built through thousands of ordinary decisions made in the same direction, not through a windfall, a salary milestone, or a single smart investment. And the practice looks nothing like what social media has told you it looks like. It's quiet, it's unsexy, it's driving the paid-off car when you could finance a newer one. It's staying in the house that's fine while the neighborhood improves. It's investing the raise instead of upgrading the lifestyle. It's having the money conversation instead of avoiding it. The people doing this don't look wealthy. That's almost entirely the point. Because they're not spending their wealth on looking wealthy, they're spending it on being free. If this reframed how you think about wealth and what it looks like, share it. Someone you know is spending money they don't have to look like they have money they don't have. And they need to know that the people who are actually building something look nothing like that. I'm Hana. Take care of yourself. See you in the next one.